Good morning, and thank you, Chairwoman Murray. Thank you for scheduling this hearing to consider the nomination of Secretary Julie Su for Deputy Secretary of Labor. Welcome, Secretary Su. I congratulate you on your nomination, and I know your family is proud of what you've accomplished. Article 2, Section 2 of the United States Constitution gives the Senate the power of advise and consent to approve or reject nominations of the executive offices made by the President. The Senate's not a rubber stamp, but an equal partner in shaping the staff of the executive branch. It's an important responsibility, and I do take it personally. I do not take it lightly. I've supported nominees of presidents of both parties, even when I didn't agree with the president or the nominee, if I thought the nominee was qualified for the job deserving my support. In fact, a month ago, I supported the nomination of Marty Walsh to be Secretary of Labor. I said then that Mayor Walsh has the background, the skills, and the awareness of the need for balance in conversations between labor and management. Mayor Walsh emphasized during his nomination hearing that he wanted to work with us collaboratively to help the American workers improve and expand opportunities. Mayor Walsh committed to making sure commerce and labor work cooperatively. So I'm pleased to be able to support his nomination and provide my consent. California is not a model to emulate for the rest of the country. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, California's unemployment stands at 9%, the second highest in the country, and has one of the worst increases in unemployment over the last year of COVID. The state's imposed some of the most onerous restrictions on businesses and individuals and has been one of the slowest to recover from the pandemic. The controversial AB 5 bill would have decimated many of the companies that have helped to give the state its reputation of innovation. For example, Uber and Lyft were both born in California and have revolutionized how people around the world get from place to place. Both companies would have had to cease operations in the very state in which they're headquartered if AB 5 bill would have been implemented as passed. The law was so radical that the same California voters who overwhelmingly supported President Biden overturned the core of AB 5 by a whopping 17%. California is also known for high taxes, and that applies both to individuals as well as businesses. And those rates aren't likely to go down anytime soon, considering the staggering amount of state liabilities on the state's balance sheet. The Tax Foundation ranked California 49th out of 50 states in terms of business climate. The classic idea of if you want less of something, make it more expensive applies to employing people in California. The Mercatus Center has also found that California has the most state regulatory restrictions in the country, nearly 30% more than the state with the second most restrictions. The tax and regulatory burden weigh heavily on employers, and it's another reason why we're seeing so many businesses flee California in favor of other states with more reasonable policies. Maybe that explains why so many companies are moving from California, bringing their jobs to North Carolina, Texas, and elsewhere. I see a lot of moving trucks with Texas plates in Charlotte and Raleigh, North Carolina. As long as they don't bring their politics, we're happy to welcome with open arms. Turning to our nominee, Madam Secretary, you have a few challenges in gaining the support for your nomination. First, some of your friends have made it clear that they think you'll be a shadow secretary, when the role deputy secretary is really that of chief operating officer. Your friends may have thought they were helping you, but some of what they've said raises some real questions. So, Secretary Su, we discussed yesterday in my office, so I hope you can convince the committee that you understand the job you've been nominated for. I also hope you can demonstrate that you aren't aiming to drag Mayor Walsh away from what I think is a sensible agenda he committed to pursuing when he sat right where you sit today in his confirmation hearing. Second, more importantly, I'm even more concerned about the failures and fraud in California's unemployment insurance. California suffered some of the largest fraud in our nation's history during the pandemic. Over $11 billion and perhaps as high as $30 billion in fraud occurred in California's unemployment system. Even death row inmates received unemployment checks. I'm sure there's a reasonable debate to be had about the death penalty, but I can't imagine one that involves paying people on death row for being unemployed. What's worse about the fraud committed on California and the U.S. taxpayer is that it was entirely preventable. It's my understanding that an auditor made a series of recommendations just as you took office, specifically recommending that California exclude sensitive information, including Social Security numbers, from its identification system, but nothing changed. In fact, when the fraud was ramping up and billions being stolen from taxpayers, California actually made things worse. You ordered the agency to eliminate some important safeguards to speed up payments, which led to even more fraud. Additionally, the people waited months for their benefit, and a state audit showed that call centers only answered 1% of their calls. These are operational failures of extreme proportion. What's worse is that California's received hundreds of millions a year, every year, over the past decade, in federal funds for administration of their unemployment system, but no changes or improvements to those systems were made. It's not Washington's fault the California system still uses COBOL. You'd think with all those tech companies still in Silicon Valley that one or two of them would have been able to provide new technology and new systems. As we discussed yesterday, it's true that all states struggled, but California's struggles swamp everyone else. And none of their secretaries of labor are here today seeking a promotion. So while you may not personally be responsible for every case of fraud that happened, the fraud did happen under your watch. So please help this committee understand why that is an experience the Senate should reward with a promotion. I'll keep an open mind as we go through this hearing, and I appreciate your willingness to discuss these issues with me and with the committee today. I thank the chair.
Thank you, Ranking Member